Hey there.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
See if we actually get people to join in on the meeting today.
Hopefully. Oh, I think your new person's in the waiting room. So I'll make you the host. It's automatically recording. And then the architects I think are going to join, and they might need to share their screen and just like show you the layout and stuff.
Okay.
If you're good with doing that too, if they need to, right?
No, that's great because I was actually I was going to ask you if you had the most recent layout. So if they're going to be on, that would be great.
Yep, they should be on and they should be able to share it if you don't mind letting them share their screen. And I think Michael will be a co-host when he joins too, so he might be able to help share their screen as well.
Okay, sounds good.
Perfect. I will make you a host and you can let the rest of your committee in.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Evening, Katie.
Hey, how are you?
Very good. And you?
Good, thank you. Is it snowy up there right now?
No.
No?
Now it's just going to be a couple inches of wet slush. Not going to get anything.
That's heavy.
Hello.
Hi, Cesar. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
How's
Welcome
the
back.
snow over there?
Cesar, an unexpected guest. Good to see you again.
Snow's doing pretty good up here. It's just slush and it's light and slushy.
Oh,
I don't.
David,
Yes.
I got a obituary, George O. Jenks III from Pocasset.
George who?
O. Jenkins
George O. Jenkins.
the
Oh,
third
yeah.
obituary.
Huh. Yeah, I knew he was down there. I hadn't heard from him in years.
87.
Wow. He's up there.
I'll get it to you sometime.
Okay. I'm sorry. I now I remember you did give me a call, and I just things been busy. Mom's in the hospital again.
Oh, no.
Yeah, just it's minor. It's just a tune-up. Uh, he kind of self-imposed high blood pressure. She gets worried about stuff, and it just kind of snowballs and gets out of control. And before you know it, she's over the edge with a high blood pressure. So
Yeah. Aren't we all?
I'm not that way yet.
Come join us.
No thanks. In time. In time, I'm sure.
Welcome, Jeff.
Hi. I don't know why I don't see myself, but
We can see you. You're there.
something up with that here.
turn the lights on.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. It looks all black to me. That's if it works for you, it's good for me.
A few more minutes for a few people to show up. Very popular meeting today. Good. Hi, Kimberly. How you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How about you?
Good. Okay. So it looks like we're at 6 o'clock, so we'll start the meeting. Welcome. Let's see if I have anyone else coming in. So welcome everyone. It's nice to see everyone. Good to. It looks like Michael just showed up. Hi, Michael. How are you?
I am well. Hey, Steve.
Perfect time. We're just about to start.
Good.
One second. And all right. So once again, we're starting off at 6 o'clock. 6:01 right now. Welcome to everyone to this meeting. I think first announcement that I want to have for this meeting is an introduction to our newest member of the Historical Commission, Matt Casey. Welcome.
Everyone. Thank you.
Very happy to have new blood on the commission. I don't know if you want to just quickly say a few things about your background.
I've been interested in history for as far back as I can remember. Worked at a couple of museums, been active in living history. But yeah, I'm happy to be here, and yeah.
Excellent, welcome. Yeah, no, glad to have you part of this, and I think there's definitely going to be. We've been a very busy commission recently with a lot of projects, the High Street Dam, the Memorial Building, a few others. So your help is greatly appreciated. And so I guess we'll start off with the open forum citizens comments. Is there any citizens that have any comments that they want to bring up prior to the start of our meeting? Seeing none, I guess we'll get. Well, first off, we'll start. First item on the agenda is the letter of support for the memorial building. Fortunately, we have Cesar and Jeff and from who are from TAPE who are working on the project, and we have Jim and Michael. So I guess we'll start off with the. Do we want to? Does anyone have a copy of the? Want to share their screen showing the most updated layouts?
Cesar, do you need
I need-
ability
I-
to do that?
Yeah, I need to
Okay.
get the
Hold on.
permit.
Yeah, I'll need that too.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Okay. Oh. Let's see if I my apologies. I had it and
So we're all learning a new
Okay.
way. All right.
Okay, do you see my screen?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, good. So let me just start with this presentation about the Bridgewater Memorial Building that, as you know, we have been trying to do something for a while, and we have tried different things. And I think right now we are in a good point. So original building, you all know about it, built in 1882, architects Wash and Tilden. This is an excerpt from those drawings that are in the, the, the working drawings that actually they are in the archive. This is a photo of the building taken probably in the 70s or 80s. That is what is in the Mass Historic Archives. This is a photograph of most recent. This is what it looks like probably a few months ago or maybe a year ago. And these are other views of the existing building. You see a wooden deck that kind of try to get an handicap access on that back door. The side facade, you see the original windows, but they have this mishmash of storm windows that some of them are white, some of them are aluminum color. The upper portion doesn't have anything. So it's a single pane of glass, not very energy efficient. In the interior, I have said this every time that we meet. I think that this building has remained in decent shape, despite the fact that it has not been occupied for some time. And it looks, the wood trim and everything looks in good shape. The paint, some areas are peeling off, but overall it looks good. And the flooring is the wood that is tired, but I'm sure that we can refinish it. The basement is a basement. It's unfinished. It has a lot of stuff and everything is exposed. It has no ceiling. There is one room on the side that it was sort of finished a little bit more over the years. But beyond that, it is very utilitarian, concrete floor. It has the boiler and some, it's a basement. So general summary of the proposed work. Right now, as I said, the building is not occupied. So what is being proposed right now is to utilize this available space to house the offices, workspaces for the DPW department heads and the staff persons on the main floor. That, of course, requires an upgrade on mechanical systems, improving the thermal performance of the windows, proper plumbing facilities for the occupants. As part of this project, we also want to restore the structural integrity of the front entrance and steps and landings. And in doing that, also provide universal access to the building. The original steps you saw in the photograph, and you're familiar with the building, they are all cracking and separating and in bad shape. Another important point of this project is to establish a venue for the display of historic artifacts. And then adapt the basement to create storage areas in support of the departmental functions on the lower level. So ADA compliances, universal access. We are proposing having, there's an existing parking space in the back of the building. We're going to improve that space and make a direct connection to the front of the building in an accessible way. And the main entrance will be compliant. And we also provide accessibility to the lower level, which doesn't exist right now. And we also are proposing compliant toilet facilities on the lower level, lower floor. This is an image of the building. Generally is divided into 3 areas, basically 2 flanking rooms and the main hall. This is, for comparison, what we are proposing, we are planning to, for the most part, keep everything as intact as possible and just define areas using furnishings for the new occupants. This image shows you the lower level and with the new accessible toilets, fully compliant, and accessibility via a lift. And the large area that you see in this plan that will have shelving and things of that nature for one person to work on sorting the documents that go into this area of storage. This is, so we're going to start talking about the improvements to the site first. And for that, we have major and minor changes to the building. We have 2 categories: minor in nature, major alterations. Major alterations require a review and approval of the Massachusetts Historical Commission, which this is so okay. Sorry. Landscape to the front of the building. So the changes that we're proposing to the front of the building, I briefly mentioned that, adding slope walkways to make them ADA compliant ramps. We are also shaping the front entrance landscape, but to make it symmetrical to the building. And we are removing the existing walkway to the front of the building, and we are replacing it with a new paver entry plaza. So here you see the main entry, the main facade of the building, the existing steps in this area, which are in relatively bad shape. What we're proposing to do is redo this work, but also provide a new handicap accessible ramp, and it goes in this direction. It starts from the sidewalk, and it brings someone to the front vestibule of the building. For symmetry, as I mentioned, and this is important in a building of this nature, we are adding a knee wall in this area that matches the one that is necessary to do the ramp on the opposite side. And this is the front entrance that we will provide we'll replace what is there right now, which is loose and broken, with a new paver entry plaza. Now that is what was proposed sort of generally to the front prior to the building. Now the front and the side of the building, we're proposing to remove the existing granite steps that lead to the front door and replace them with new concrete steps with granite treads. We had discussed a full depth granite tread if the budget can afford that, but it will have at least a granite component to it. The existing steps that are right now that they are granite, we plan to remove them and repurpose them to create the top landing of this new platform that at the entrance. And we will also add in a slope walkway to replace the existing sidewalk. As you can see here in this blue area, we are proposing new steps and repurposing of the existing pieces of stone to create the top landing that leads to the main entrance of the building. This is on the side of the building, on the east side. Right now, we are improving the connection back to the parking space that is currently there, which we're going to refurbish. We're going to clean it up, the area, striping, painting, putting new signage for that spot. And then it will be a handicap accessible path that leads to the front of the building, so that on the concept of universal access, everybody takes the same main entrance. This is an early rendering of superimposed on the building, a photograph of the building, conceptually of the ramp and slope walkways. This is an image computer generated. We're still working on it, but is, again, conceptually, it gives you an idea of what we're proposing, the connection to the back, to the parking in the back, and how the two ramps coming from the street and coming from the back of the building, they meet at an intermediate point, and then they move up to the top landing into the main entrance. This is a view from the coming the other way. So those are the basic changes that we're proposing to the exterior. The ones that we're proposing for the interior, we're creating floor opening to install a new wheelchair lift. And we are removing and replacing the existing stair that leads to the lower floor with a code compliant stair in a new configuration and a larger floor opening. And so on the right, you see the new lift that we are proposing. And this is the most appropriate way to do this in a way that is the least impactful to the plan, relatively small scale, although it's sufficient for one of the large wheelchairs. And this is an alternative to having an elevator, which probably it's just not viable in this building. So we're taking advantage of the code allowances for a historical building that while we can make it handicap accessible, we can make it accessible ADA on both floors. We can still do it in a way that doesn't have a huge impact on the basic layout of the building. On the left, you see the stair in the same location as the existing stair. There's one currently there. It's too steep. It doesn't meet the code. We are reconfiguring the stair and making it compliant. This is another rendering that shows a view on the left, the nature of the stair being very light, trying to maintain the opening to the windows, you see, so that they don't get in the way of the views. Artifacts in display cases located in the center of the room that also act as a buffer zone to the more private zone of the offices. So it's like an office open plan, but at the same time, we're using the furnishings to define the zones, and at the same time using those pieces of furniture to make them functional in terms of the historical relevance of the building. This is a view, the other angle, showing the lift. As I mentioned, we are selecting something that has the least amount of impact to the space, but is functional, and they are available materials for this lift. As you can see, we're trying to mimic the wood that is already there in the wainscoting and try to blend it in. As you move down to the lower level to where the toilet rooms are, either by lift or by stair, they communicate at the same point in the lower level, this lower lobby, so that is the vertical circulation is cohesive. In addition to those more significant changes, we are talking about minor changes, as I said, paving, striping, and signage associated with the making of an ADA compliant parking space. You remove the existing wooden deck and the lift and repair and structurally stabilize the side stair and the landing. We are going to put a removable entry grille so that it can be removed so that it maintains the visual. It still allows you to see the original pavers at the main vestibule entrance. So that's why we have this removable entry grille. Repainting of previously painted interior surfaces and repairs and improvements to the electrical power distribution system, repairs to the lighting system. Here you can see this image on the left, the existing steps that a deck was put over them to work with the lift on the outside. We are proposing now that we have a fully handicap accessible entrance in the front. We will be eliminating that deck, we will be eliminating that lift, and we will be refurbishing, repairing the existing steps. And on the right are the plans that go with that image. Some additional minor changes, installation of removable floor coverings, a walk-off mat at the entrance vestibule, removal and replacement of lower level partitions in new configurations. As I said, we are using dividers and furnishings to define the different zones without trying to interfere with actual solid construction partitions that would change the character of the space. So it's mostly treated as I said, furnishings within the larger space. Reusing, repurposing of existing HVAC, plumbing, and electrical system components, supplemented with new equipment as required. Adding partial high glass and wood partitions that can be removable, so reversible. And we are also refurbishing the existing windows where necessary and replacing existing storm panes with higher performance energy panels, using the same techniques that we did at the Academy building. And here you can see what these are. We're adding on the top page these low height partitions so that you still maintain the view of the windows and the feel of the entire space while defining a zone to the front being the more of the where the historical artifacts would be, and in the back is more of the offices. And down here you see, as I mentioned before, there's a different assortment of storm windows. Some have, some don't have it. Some of the windows themselves, the original windows, are in, oh, I went too far. Some of them will need some repair, and others are just will have to be scraped and painted. Again, similar to what we did in the Academy building, we did an inventory of each window and what needed to be fixed. And then to add energy efficiency to it, we add this thermal panel to the front of the window so that it creates this pocket of air that provides the insulated aspect of the window, as well as it provides protection to a wood window that is historical. So this becomes more sacrificial if you were to break or something. And that is sort of, sorry if I went too fast or not, but that that is basically the what we're proposing right now for this project.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Committee members, is there anyone that wants to has some comments?
Yeah, I would, Steve.
Yes.
A lot of the interior walls have wood paneling, wood wainscoting. What's going to happen to that?
One of the interior, those are in the side rooms, right?
Side rooms. There's no wood wainscoting in the main room in the back?
No, no, there are some cabinets, well, the shelves that we will probably refurbish or as part of the scope of the work. But there's no wainscoting. The one that does exist is in very nice shape. I think that at this point, that and the fireplaces and all the ornamental wood will just clean it up if necessary, but we're not planning to do much. We're trying to keep all that intact.
Okay, is there an alternative to the wrought iron railing? Either eliminating that using wood with a wood component, or something with some scroll work. I mean, that straight stack design doesn't go with the building.
Yeah, there are opportunities to do different things with the railing. I think that we picked that as sort of more like representative of what we were trying to do, which is to avoid what they have right now is literally a knee wall, solid knee wall. We're trying to open it up, make it as transparent as possible to maintain the volumetric effect of the space. But yes, it could be a little bit more, if it were wood, just by the nature of the material structurally, would be less transparent, but it could be wood, yes.
Either wood or wrought iron with some design to it rather than a stacked straight lines.
Okay. Yeah,
And
as I said, this was mostly representative of the concept.
Okay.
yeah, but I would just interject relative to design intent, not to detract from the things that are truly historical artifact. You don't want to put something into the building that causes one confusion about, is that historical? Is that something new that was added? So we want to just be careful about how far we go down the path of replicating something that might have been in the building, but was never in the building, perhaps. If we had a clear idea of what the railing was like on a historic stair, then we should probably just replicate it. But without that awareness and information, that we created something that looked like it was a historical recreation, then we would be confusing what real history is. So we have to, I think, sort of walk carefully between being respectful of the history that's there and also being creating any sort of confusion about what is real and what is real history and what is faux history. We don't want to infuse anything that is so rich with actual real history practically unretouched. And all this aspect from the magnificent woodwork that's in those two front rooms to the exterior masonry detailing, the whole thing is just a little gem. And we have to be careful about how we treat that. So hopefully I don't sound like I'm being dismissive, but I just want to say we should look at developing the railing with an eye towards not accidentally creating a false impression.
I think that can be done. I understand your point.
Great.
That's
Well,
very stacked.
we'll come up with a development of the design and share it with you and see how it resonates with you.
Okay, thank you. On the knee walls in the front of the building, is any thought been given to brick facing on them to maybe just to take some of the stackness out of all that concrete?
Uh, we had entertained different materials, but I think that we did talk about brick before, and we were concerned that in contrast with the brick building, that was going to be, again, trying to, it tied too much to the building and not to the landscape. Our intent was to tie it to the landscape. Avoid the, that's why we are using pavers, non-brick pavers at the entrance and the granite walls and all that. So yes, we did talk about brick, but in the end we decided that not to use that material for those walls.
I also just wanted to open up allowing comments from people who are on the ad hoc committee for the memorial building. So that would be Carlton is on the line as well. So I think he has a question.
Thank you. I got it myself unmuted here. Very nice presentation. I think we've made huge improvements. A quick thing for Kim and Michael. Are we at a point where we could apply for green community money for the energy efficiency upgrades in the building? You can hold that for a minute. Did you guys look at the 2011 4-building study that identified a number of things that need restoration? I can't remember if we already did that, but one that really bothered me was some kind of a bulge in that back wall of the building that they thought might be at risk of breaking at some point. If you haven't looked at that 4-building study from 2011, and we haven't done those repairs, I think we should take that into consideration. Third point is, has the historical a certificate of appropriateness been applied for with the historic district? 4 is, I guess I may have misread the preservation. I thought all minor and all major things inside and outside had to be approved by the Mass Historic. And the last point is more for the CPC to consider. Do we have a specific grant agreement in place, or will we get that in place once we get these final designs done? That's a lot, but that's the kind of thing I need to hear about.
Okay, so I know that the first one was for me, Carlton. What was the first one again? I'm sorry.
It's a green community energy.
Okay. So
are we in a place to apply for energy subsidies?
I think we already installed with Green Communities money. We already installed what we have there, and that we're planning on reusing. So I don't see any additional application for Green Communities funding. There are potential other funding mechanisms, but I don't think Green Communities is on the table at this point. So that was one.
Oh, thank you. I remember that we paid for the current, but I thought I understood that something was going to be done interior with energy upgrades or something. Is it just a relocation of that one external unit?
I think, well, Cesar can answer that better than I can, but I think the
Yeah.
units, the exterior units are planned to be combined and hidden from view. But Cesar, is there anything else on the energy side that you think would be applicable
yeah.
for Green Communities?
You're correct that the equipment, there's some equipment there that is not that old, and our engineers were already there, and when they did the study, and definitely we want to use that equipment and supplement with some units just for ventilation. So that's one thing, and they are already efficient, energy efficient. The adding of, there's also some lighting that is energy efficient in the building. Any new plumbing fixtures will be water efficient. And so any new installations will be to today's code. So by definition, they are efficient already. And so we're utilizing what is already there, and anything new will supplement what is already there. Oh, and we're also adding insulation to the attic.
So that's really good to hear, and I agree with all of that, but I think those kinds of things might be eligible through Green Community. I just don't know if we're at the point where we can apply for a grant this year.
I'm not sure I can check on that, but certainly that's,
Well,
if we
but
can, we will.
The critical part is the LED streetlights. If that project is done, then I think we can. If it's not done, I'm not sure.
We split that into two phases. The first and by far the larger phase is done. So I think that's wrapped up. So it's really a choice of doing the second phase, which is I believe decorative lights, or perhaps there might be more bang for the buck right now by looking at this building. So we'll do that. We'll do that analysis.
I appreciate it. The Energy Committee would love to participate.
Excellent. And then, I'm sorry, the second one?
In 2011, we had a 4-building study done, and the architects reviewed that and found a number of potential problems with the building. I just can't remember if they were actually repaired or not.
I don't recall. I've seen the 4-building study, and I just don't recall seeing anything structural on the memorial building, but I'll pull it up while we're talking and see.
Please do. I did send it to Kim in hopes that they would send it to Cesar and his company, because I think there's some things that we could fit in there that would be truly restorative.
Well, we don't, I can tell you, we don't, as I always say, we don't plan on doing this without doing it right. So to the extent there's any structural issue anywhere, that's will be part of the program.
Okay, well, let's just make sure we add it to the tickler list. The historical district needs to issue a certificate of appropriateness. Is there a plan to go forward?
The Historic District Commission has looked at it. They've, by consensus at this point, are fine with the design. And we've filled out the certificate or the application for the certificate of appropriateness. We are going to file that once we get through the MAAB process to know whether or not the front doors can be essentially retrofitted and accessible. So the Historic District Commission, and this is pertinent to the conversation, obviously, the Historic District Commission was very interested in trying to save the current front doors, which are not compliant, not ADA compliant. We can make them more compliant with an actuator that opens the doors. Both doors, it's roughly a 5-foot opening, and each door is roughly 2.5 feet wide. So one door 2.5 feet wide does not comply with ADA, obviously, or with accessibility standards. And so the 5-foot opening more than complies. And so the variance request to the MAAB will be to allow that to be actuator activated. And so once we know that answer, we'll go back to the HTC and they'll be prepared to vote.
And my final question was, what are we going to do about making sure the town has a grant agreement in place with the CPC in terms of the details so that we can monitor the project?
Before anything, before any construction takes place, the CPC will have a draft of that and be able to vote that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Steve,
Yes.
board, couple questions or statements I have. In the malls, they have glass partitions for railings that look pretty good. That might be an option there that would keep the view of the walls with a metal railing to hold the glass in place. We don't have kids running around in there, so that nobody will. They still have to be safety glass, but that would look pretty good. The other thing I've mentioned several times is that there's only one handicap parking in the back of the building. We have two choices. One is purchase the building behind and make that a nice parking place for the staff and so forth. Or two, open and walkway through to the walkway by the library so they can use the library parking lot for visitors that come in that need a place to park rather than on the street. That makes more sense than, to keep the parking central. But you have to cut the curb between the two and make the proper handicap ramp as you come down to make the turn to the handicap ramp and cross the driveways.
That would also, that roadway right there is a private, it's a private driveway, correct?
Understood, yes.
So we'll just have to work with the owners of the town would have to work with the owners of that lot to,
An easement?
yes. And I agree. I think that that would be a good solution to have the extra accessible parking. I think with the one space going forward, I think that meets the needs of the building. But I agree, we should definitely look into the town should look into making an easement or an access from the library parking. There really is no other parking around that space.
Yeah, for what it's worth, obviously that's, not part of the historic scope, but for what it's worth, when our offices were over there, and we had to relocate to the library, the basement of the library for a while, it was evident, very clearly evident that it would be great to have some sort of improved passage there. So it is a private road. The owner of the road has not generally has not how should I put it, has not been particularly favorable to access.
No.
But certainly, we'll keep pursuing that because it just makes sense. I mean, honestly, having two access roads, within feet of each other is not optimal by any means, but it'd be nice if it could be one road, but we'll try to fight that battle when it comes along.
Matt, I know that you're new to the commission, but do you have comments that you want to bring forward from what you saw?
The presentation was great. I like everything about it. I think there have been some concerns that have been brought up that do need to be addressed. But yeah, I don't think I have any questions off the top of my head at the moment. So, but yeah.
I have Gina is raising her hand. Gina, you can ask your question.
Sure. First, thanks, Steve. First, I'd like to congratulate Matt on his appointment to your commission. I think that's great that he stepped up for that. And also to thank Caesar for such an excellent presentation. I'll keep it real short. I just want to say that I thought the whole concept that Caesar went over tonight, all the changes, I thought they were very good. At least 100% better than the first time I saw the plan a couple of years ago. So I would like to say that, and I think it's great having grown up with that building as a library. I think it's great the way it's being kept. So good job.
And I think what I'd like to say that once Cesar and Jeff, thank you for your work on this. I think that the display, the interior improvements are like what Gina said, vastly improved from what we first saw. I think that having the space open really keeps the integrity of the building. And I think that we should look at some of the comments that David and Bob and Carlton brought up. And what I'd like to do right now with the committee is I want to make a motion to take a vote on approval of the schematic plans as we've seen right here.
Steve, one question.
Yes.
It may have been left off only because these are just renderings of the future building, but the chimneys and the amylary sphere were missing from those drawings. Are they going to be removed?
No, we're not removing that sphere there.
Yes.
Yeah, no, if it's there, we're not touching that.
Chimneys?
Same thing. I think that the renderings, we just didn't render them, but it's no intent to remove any of that. No.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'd like to move to vote for the committee to vote on supporting the schematic plan so the project can continue to move forward. So I want to make sure I'm doing this correctly. Do I need a second to have a second to go forward with the vote?
I'll second it, Steve.
Okay, David seconds it. We'll just have a roll call vote. David?
I agree.
Matt?
I agree.
And Bob? All right. And I agree. It's unanimous. The Historical Commission expresses their support for the schematic plans. I appreciate the presentation, and we'll continue the conversation regarding the railings, anything keep us informed as to what's going on.
We definitely will. So I appreciate that, and thanks to the committee. We will be back to you with both the railing and we want to keep you in the loop as the construction gets going. But thanks for this piece. The work now shifts back to us, and we have to go through the MAAB process and Mass Historic. But we appreciate that support.
Okay, and I'll be sending the letter of support to you tonight.
Oh, thank you, Steve.
Great. I think with that, I appreciate that. I think that was excellent. Moving on, we have an update on the Mcelwain School project. Matthew Zahler, and thank you, Jeff. Jake, thank you, Cesar. Matthew Zahler from MPZ Development, principal at MPZ Development, is with us.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Cesar. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Matt. How you doing?
Good. How's everybody doing?
Excellent. Do you have anything that you need to screen share?
Sure. I have some renderings and plans I can share with the group.
Sure.
But before I start, I can just give a quick intro. And Steve, thanks for asking us to participate today. I've got my colleague here, Jenny, also joining us from Capstone Communities. As some of you know, this is a joint venture between my development company and Capstone Communities. Jason Korb is the principal. He can't be with us tonight, so I'm going to walk you through what we're up to. We've worked with many of you before. I see some familiar faces here: Bob, David, Carlton, Michael, Kim, everybody else, and Steve, of course, and everybody else. It's nice to see you and meet you for the first time. We're really excited about this opportunity to redevelop what is, a historic asset to the community. Two of them, actually, here in Bridgewater. The Mcelwain School, which is a beloved asset, as we know from all the folks we've heard from that have either gone there or worked there, or just are excited to see this building come back from what it is today to something beautiful again. And David has been helpful to us since the start of this project, about way back in 2017, from the Historic Commission standpoint, by offering support letters for all of our tax credit applications. And so to date, we've accrued about 700,000 in state historic tax credits between the Mcelwain School and 242 Main Street, which is another home that we're listing on the National Register, the State Historic Register, because it contributes to the larger district was created, the downtown district, a long time ago. And so, the federal credit will be used on the Mcelwain and the state credit will be used on the house and the Mcelwain. So just to orient everybody, for anybody that's not familiar with the project, I'm going to share some items here. We should also say these renderings are a little bit dated, generally up to date, but we applied for federal funding and state funding back in February of last year, and we were awarded all of the resources that we need. And now we're working with Michael and his team and the CPC to close the project. So we, as of kind of a couple hours ago, we just have finished our negotiation with our investor and our lender. So it's exciting because we're now able to move the process forward. And the goal is to get to a full financial closing. That means we can start construction in May. So that's rapidly approaching. COVID and all the other elements, have not been helpful as it relates to moving any construction forward. But we're doing the best that we can to continue to push this project forward. So May is our goal to start construction. Let me see if I can move this along here. Okay, so just to orient folks, Main Street, 250 Main Street is the site of the Mcelwain building, and then 242 Main Street is right next door. We'll be combining the two lots to create what is about 3 acres. We're preserving the Mcelwain School and doing a small addition off the back that will allow for elevator and stair egress to the building. It's also a nice way to preserve the building in its full glory by not having to put an elevator within the structure itself. So we're excited about that. The historic renovation will put 16 units in the school building. The 242 Main Street will remain 3 units, but it's currently 3 2-bedroom units, and we're going to add a bedroom to one of the units. So it'll be 2 2-beds and a 3-bed. And then we're preserving the barn structure as well for storage and maintenance use. And then at the back of the site, we're doing new construction, 38 units. This is a family development, so it'll have a mix of 1s, 2s, and 3 bedrooms. The 3 bedrooms mainly preside in this building, but there's one in the Mcelwain and there's one in the 242 as well. And the nice thing about this building is it will be a passive house construction. And so that is a very highly energy efficient construction. And it's one of the goals of the Commonwealth to be net zero. I think it's by 2050 or something like that. So this falls in line with that goal. It'll also have solar panels on the roof of this building. We didn't put them on the historic buildings. MHC doesn't really like that, so stayed away from that. Here is a plan of the open space. So Bridgewater is committing about $1.3 million in CPA funds to this project. Those CPA funds will go into the 3 buckets. I don't have the breakdown in front of me, but it's largely the affordable housing bucket, and then some of the open space bucket, and then the historic preservation bucket, a little bit out of that one. So you can see we're creating quite a bit of open space here. We'll have this memorial plaza for the Mcelwain. We're going to do something. We'd like to work with the commission to kind of come up with some sort of memorial for this location right here. We talked about, there's a flagpole here. We talked about doing some sort of totem or an engraved piece. So we still need to work through what that's actually going to say. It could have names of students. It could be names of administrators. We'd really like your input in crafting this, and I'd like to do a follow-up meeting with our designer and maybe some members of the commission to come up with that also would like to involve some of the CPC members in that conversation. That's something we talked about some time ago. We're also doing a children's play area over here that will be open to the community. And then, the site itself has 93 parking spaces. We have modified this a little bit. Our project came in over budget, so we'll be going back with our final plans to the building inspector as well as the ZBA to just show them the minor modifications we made, but we modified some walkways and we changed some curbing and we changed some of the plantings. We had to deal with a large budget bust as a result of pricing and timing. So, and then there's a dog run here for the residential community's use. So we can kind of relegate some of that activity to one location so as not to, be scattered across the site. I don't have a dog, but I know people that do, and it's nice to have a place to take your dog when you want to go for a quick walk. So that's another amenity to the project. Here is a rendering of what the new entry might look like. Park on the right, not depicted in this photo, but it's there. The Memorial Plaza here, facade of the Mcelwain. We're actually turning the front into the back of the building, and we're maintaining these historic vestibules, and then adding that new addition that I mentioned to you for circulation and whatnot. And then in the distance here, you can see the Passive House new construction in the far back. Here's a closer view of that, and then the addition to the left of the rendering, which will be clad in a material that's newer looking so as not to conflict with the historic nature of the Mcelwain. And then a modern interpretation of the new building to give a little bit of some new flavor to the site. We don't want to impede on the historic qualities of the Mcelwain itself. So a nice new fresh looking building in the back. Another view looking up from the back of 242 Main Street, get a sense of the kind of connection between the two buildings. And then in addition, looking from the side of the new building at the addition of the Mcelwain. So you can see it's respectful in its nature and preserves the similar lines as to the Mcelwain. Here's the picture of the building, probably about a year ago, 2 years ago. Still looks pretty much like this. It's actually in pretty good shape. It's got a newer roof, which was something that really benefits the building. Not a whole lot of water has infiltrated the structure. And believe it or not, all these broken windows are helpful kind of getting airflow in and out of the building. We did board up some of the windows to preserve the interior woodwork a little bit. But we having been open for the past 20 years has actually helped the building, not hurt it. And so that's the building today. And then this is just some floor plans to give you a sense of what it looks like. These are 2-bedroom units here. This is the basement. So this is currently the boiler room. And so we're turning that into a 2-bedroom unit and a 1-bedroom unit. And here's the lobby for this building in the addition that has a package room and mailboxes and an elevator here to get people up and through the building, make sure it's 100% ADA accessible. Moving up through the building, the second floor, 2-bedroom here at the front of the building. These are all 2 bedrooms. And then just some renderings. So here's a rendering of the lobby area with the package room and the mailboxes. And then going into the hallway. This is on what I would call the basement level, but it won't feel like a basement because it has large windows throughout. And then a sample of what the units will look like, the kitchen and bath for the school building. And then we get into the new construction. So here we have some amenities that'll be available to the community. So when we get back to meeting in person, it's possible to sign out the community room with the manager's consent. So you just call the management office and make an appointment, and you can utilize the community room. There's a restroom, and then we've got a fitness center for the residents here. And then we'll have on-site property management residing in this part of the building. Going up the building, it's 1s, 2s, and 3s. These are the different unit layouts. And here's a sample of that community room with our interior designers touch. So something kind of newer to complement the historic nature of it, but still keeping with some historic type elements. And then some sample unit kitchens and baths from this building, a little bit different than the Mcelwain layouts. And then we've got the 242 Main Street house. And so we'll be taking off all of this aluminum siding, putting on a new roof, taking all of the kitchens and baths out, putting in new baths, kitchens, new fixtures, new plumbing, new electrical, and then new heating and cooling systems for this whole building. We'll add a small little bump out here to make this back unit into a 3-bedroom, and then the barn that will be reinforcing. It has some structural issues that we're dealing with, and we'll take care of those through the redevelopment, and then just the floor plans of this building. So that's all I have for presentation. I'm happy to answer questions or have a conversation about any questions, thoughts everybody has. So that's about it for me, Steve.
All right, no, thank you, Matt. And I think that's great. And I know personally, I'm very excited for this project. I think that the progress and what's been made, and I think it really preserves the look of the school while making it accessible. One thing that I promoted this a little bit on the on my historical commission Facebook page, and this is kind of something that I don't know how it can happen because of COVID and also because of safety. Some people, because it was such a brings back memories for a lot of people. Some people before construction were asking, like, could there be like a walkthrough? Could there be something where like people kind of see it before it's less before it's private, kind of like private apartments? I don't know if that's anything that is possible or with the situation is now, but I don't know. That's something that was brought up.
That's a great question. People might want to keep their mind's eye of the memories they had when the building was operational. I don't mean to be jestful about it. I just say that because it's in pretty rough shape in there. And so that does also beg the safety concern associated with bringing folks through. The building is currently owned by the town. We have a purchase agreement with the town for the building. So we'd have to see, when and if that could be made possible. I don't mean to put Michael on the spot, but he and I should probably have that conversation, and then, maybe we can talk about it post closing, maybe getting some folks through before we start. But we're going to start with a vengeance when we get into that building. We've been waiting to get going. So
I more or less wanted to just kind of verbalize it and just say that I asked the question, but I knowing the answer beforehand.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, well, I can open up the questions to anyone on the committee, any members, anyone on the call right now.
Steve, on the I took the historical commission through that building a number of years ago, and there had been a lot of moisture in the building, and as Matt said, the broken windows vented it, but it's pretty ugly inside. People are best with the memories that they have of going there as children. They don't want to go in there now because it's ugly and scary, peeling paint and everything else. And I'm glad to hear they were able to save some of the woodwork, or they might be able to, because the rest of the building is pretty ugly. So.
Yeah, there's also presence of mold. So
Yeah.
I really, from a safety standpoint, I think it's best left the way it was. We're going to remediate all of those things when we do the redevelopment. We have we'll take out whatever asbestos is there. We'll deal with the mold and the lead paint. So but to David's point, I agree, David. It's best left the way people remembered it, and then the new building will be great. Everybody can come see that when we
I like
open it up.
that. Carlton?
Yeah, thanks. Very good presentation. It's so exciting to see this going forward. I do believe my wife, who's the current town clerk, did some kind of video walkthrough when the building, not long after the building, but probably maybe 5 years after it was basically unused, as part of a marketing tool for that building. I think cable TV may have that, and I think that would be a really nice way to have those memories visited, because I agree with the safety issues totally. The other thing, Matt, is I think we told you we have the original bell that was used to call people in, and my wife and I are carefully archiving it here at our house until you're ready to receive it.
That's great, Carlton. I do remember you saying that now, so I'm going to put that on my list. But we would certainly welcome that back into the building.
You could put it out on the outside in a nice glass case with it ringing every, 8 o'clock every morning.
Sure, the residents would love that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob, do you have any comments? Matt?
No, I don't. Thank you.
No, I'm good.
And I am also like I spoke with Gina, who's on the call right now. She's chair of the CPC. Gina, do you have any comments you want to questions or comments you want to give to Matt?
Yeah, I do, Steve. Thanks, Matt. First off, thank you for the great presentation. I went to school there, as you were showing the pictures. It's like that was my kindergarten. Actually, I didn't go to kindergarten. That was my first grade room. That was my fourth grade room. So I was thinking all the students that could move into there and actually sleep, like honest to goodness, instead of just sleeping through classes. But all kidding aside, I thought the presentation was great. I know Steve asked if you could be put on a CPC agenda for next Wednesday. I look forward to hearing what the CPC members have to say. We have 3 of us on here tonight, but hearing what the whole committee thinks. And I commend you for sticking with the look of the school and not like demolish, well, couldn't demolish, but changing it completely. I love the buildings that are transformed into something useful. So thank you for that, for keeping with the look of the town with it.
Thanks, Gina. Nice to see you and meet you. And yeah, I look forward to coming to the CPC. We have a lot of work to do as it relates to getting to a closing, but all of the requirements of the CPC will be accounted for, as we get to, that point, and we'll put the restrictions on that we discussed, and we'll work with Michael's office to ensure that happens.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
That's really important, Matt, and because I was thinking, do we have a grant agreement with you guys? I don't think we have that. We need to develop that, because that will help define what you're going to do, what we're going to measure and monitor for. And we have a person that can help us write that grant agreement. She's our consultant, and she'll be on the phone call, the Zoom call next Wednesday. So I think that's a really good next step.
Yeah, and I just to let everybody know, there's a lot of state financing here. So there will be Mass Docs, which is the form. I'm getting into the weeds now. I don't mean to do that, but they basically have a set of form documents with a deed restriction and a number of elements that will make it a lot easier for the CPC's requirements to be met through these state approved documents. And they're really fantastic. They're user friendly, and the attorney that is assigned for the state will be sure to make sure that everything that the CPC needs and wants is incorporated in that documentation. So it's a great tool.
I think that's a great topic for you to discuss a little bit in more depth with the CPC when we meet.
Happy to do
I'm
that.
vice chair, by the way.
Great.
I really appreciate the presentation, Matt. That was great, and I think what I had, I think you and I had discussed earlier. I think this is a great opportunity for maybe get some publicity for not only the project, but for the town, being a historical site. I think getting the word out as to when this starts, the construction starts. I think this will be a good highlight for the town.
I totally agree, Steve. And I think, you know, Bridgewater is leading the way as it relates to this type of project. You know, the way that the community has stepped up and supported this project, not only, you know, through the permitting process and through the process, but the allocation of resources have been really instrumental in making this project financially feasible, but also something that, you know, it's a true public-private partnership. So we've really enjoyed the relationship we've had with the community, and we could look forward to continuing that as we get under construction and then into completion and stabilization.
Excellent. We look forward to it as well.
Great.
Yes. Thank you, Matt. Thank you,
All right.
Jennifer.
Thank you, guys. Have a great evening.
Oh, well.
Thanks.
Moving forward, the next item on the list is the High Street Dam project, and I'm actually going to just with Carlton is part of is also a representative of this project. I don't know if you can actually assist me on some of the information that's going on with this. That'd be helpful.
I'm happy to do it, but you can lead and I'll join.
Okay. So what's been going on with the High Street Dam and bridge removal projects? We have let's bring up the information right here. We've had one meeting so far discussing the consultants, and we have another meeting coming up. Just at the moment right now, I'm actually, if I could pass it off to you, Carlton.
All right.
A little bit more information than I do. I've been compiling a lot of things and something that's not on the top of my head right now.
Okay, well, this project started back in, well, probably 10 years ago, but in 2017, the state Department of Marine Fisheries and Nature Conservancy did a feasibility study looking at two aspects of the High Street Dam, known as the Jenkins Dam. Bob corrected me. There was a Jenkins owner of that property at one point, and that's when it got the name Jenkins, but it's more popularly known as the High Street Dam. So they did the feasibility study, and the feasibility study led to a decision. Well, I should say first, the dam is privately owned. And the decision was with the town, the owner of the property, and he decided that the dam needed to be removed, and the state wants to remove it because they want to have better fish passage. The fish that live in the ocean come up into fresh water to breed and survive and then go back out to the ocean, and eels, that kind of thing. So that decision to remove the dam is fait accompli. So then the question, and the state went all through all sorts of studies, and I've been involved with commenting on their documents, et cetera. I won't bore you with. So we've gotten to the point that they're at, Michael, correct me, I think they're at close to 90% design of the dam removal. And because the dam's being removed, the very old High Street Bridge, that most people don't probably realize, you're going over a stone structure that was probably constructed in the early 1700s or before. And it's a very early rendition of dry stone work done by the colonialists as they developed this area, or undeveloped it, I guess I would like to say, because my Native American bias plays heavily here on what we did to those people. That said, the process has gotten to the point that the designs are done. And what you have to do when you have this kind of project going forward is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, known to me as NOAA, NOAA, has this requirement for historical properties and destruction of properties. They need to go in and make their kinds of assessments. They need to do an area of impact. There are several things that they're done, and we're at that stage right now. And because I believe the Historic Commission is the signer of any things that are agreed to in terms of mitigation. I think that's what the rule is.
Yeah.
And several of us were commenting. Michael, in his wisdom, good wisdom, decided that we ought to all be at the table. So right now it's CPC, Historical Commission, and the Open Space Committee, because there are recreational aspects that could be brought into the game. So that's what we're meeting on, and the state is the proponent, and they've arranged for us to have these meetings. And where we're at right now is trying to put together what we think is appropriate mitigation for loss. I won't say removal. I would say the loss of those two very historic structures. Not to get into the weeds, but I have submitted comments to the state and as well as to Michael about what my perceptions are in terms of mitigation, which some could help restore some of the buildings in that area, and others could be increased recreation. So we're going to have a conversation, I believe it's Monday afternoon on Zoom, and I think it's a public meeting where we will talk about and somehow try to come to a resolution. I don't think the feds and the state are very willing to put up much money, but I think the history of that property, this is my personal opinion, warrants a significant investment on the state's part, because they're the ones that drove the removal and the fact that the bridge has to be replaced. If that's not clear, let me know. If you want to ask questions, I'll try to answer, but I'm going to defer to Steve now.
Well, and thanks, Carlton. That was very helpful. I think other things that we talked about that in regards to the historical commission, in like what types of mitigation would take place. Seeing that like the dam is being some of the things are being removed, and when they're removed, they're just gone. Some of the things that were brought up that we can look at is signage in the new site, like making sure that there's not only like signage for wayfinding, but also signage for like historical elements of the park. Talking about not only the history of the factory, but history of like the land itself. Possibly putting together a pamphlet or brochure, or the I guess the new version, a website or something like describing the site, so that just we make sure that the people, that the residents, anyone who goes there knows the history of the site. I think that's to be very important, just to make sure that it's not like when the site's finished and the bridge is replaced, people know what was there. One person on the project, they have a company. Sorry, I just want the Public Archaeology Laboratory out of Providence, and they're not only looking at like the structure, the historical structures that are on surface, but they also someone looking below ground, looking at what is the whole history of the space, could be tie into pre-colonization, looking into what the bridge, what the river, what that whole area was used for. I think it's very important that we document this. And like what Carlton said, we have another meeting coming up next week on Monday to discuss, to keep the conversation going.
So I just
absolutely.
one of the things I think, and I know Steve Black, who's the steward for the park, wants this to happen. The thing would be, this is part of the trail system that's trying to be developed, the Emerald Trail or whatever they call it, Meckatuxet Trail. And that could be a waypoint with a canoe input, those kinds of things. And the designers of the bridge replacement have actually made room for a canoe put in, a kayak put in. So the thing I think is that we have one very historic structure on the town highway department land, which is an old storage barn. And that CPC had tried to get it restored. I think David's been involved with it at some level. And what I'd like to see is that become a display area. It'd be roofed, it would be preserved, and then it would be built into a waypoint, a stop point, recreationally, and also for this historic stuff that Steve's talking about. There's some incredible, I followed it and photographed a lot over the last 4 years. There's some incredibly historic elements that are still in place that I think the next generation, not my kids' generation, but the generation after that, will lose respect for the incredible workmanship that our 1800s Industrial Revolution, the colonialists with the bridge. I think we could put a very beautiful display that would attract people to Bridgewater if we really can get the feds and the state to put up enough money to do that. It's just, you envision that building and having some of the old stones around it so people could see that, and maybe reconstructing a small portion of the historic part of the bridge safely put together so people could see the workmanship that's there. And then you can go inside that building and see these historic history and displays, that kind of thing, as well as the normal metal signage that they put in as a normal mitigation. So I'm really adamant that we get something really positive out of this, what I consider a destruction of history, but you know, it is what it is.
And I'm just going to quickly share my screen right here. People who are on the High Street Dam meeting saw this last time, but on my Historical Commission Facebook page, I've put together a whole photo album of the site. And one thing I asked at the in their first meeting, it seemed as if the PAL, the Public Archaeology Laboratory, they took a lot of their information from the previous consultant, and they had a lot of written information, a lot of written documents, but they didn't have a lot of actual images or of what the space was or the history of it. So I shared this with them. And this, like what Carlton says, like this goes through the historical sites of the buildings, the really kind of like.
Steve, go back too, because let's see, go back one more. Over on the right, there's a building with 2 windows right there. I believe that's the storage building that I would like to have preserved.
Yes, I believe you're correct on that one.
But what an operation that was going on there. The monitor, steel for the monitor. It's an incredible history.
It is. It was one of the largest iron factories in the country. I think it was like either 1 or 2.
Steve, I could talk for hours on this, but I only want to say one thing. I think Carlton's suggestions, the pie in the sky, I would love to see that preservation of that building. I'll do anything I can to help with that effort. But at the very least, we should insist on some type of shoring for those gable ends. With the heavy construction, the trucks, the heavy equipment that's going to be going back and forth in the area of that building, we should insist that that building precautions be taken to keep those gable ends from deteriorating.
I've actually, you know, the Stanley Company owned property there, the Stanley Works.
Yeah,
You know, they may have some money that they would contribute. And I asked in my email to Michael, I asked that if we could get the Stanley Company to interest. They rebuilt the dam in 1904. And it's just, I think it's really important that we can engage other people that may have money. And the Stanley Company is, I think, appropriate. And I know, because the research I've done is there is down in Philadelphia, and I forget the name of it, but there's a library that apparently has all the archives from this. By the way, that last picture, 2 pictures ago, that was in the 2004 newspaper article on the dam rebuild. It was called the most modern electrical generation plant in the area. And you go back one more, 2 more. It was the one that you saw building, and there was a big, that one. There were 2 of those devices in there that generated electricity for the plant starting in 1904.
I've been to the museum in Philly. It's the Swedish American Historical Society, and they have some information on Ericsson's contracts with the with the foundry. I had a little trouble finding them because they're listed under the Lazelle Penkins Company.
Right.
And that's why they never heard of them. But with some research, we were able to find it. But at the very least, we've got to get those gable ends supported. They've been like that for 15 years, and that wood is it's on the way out. And
Yeah.
I also had a seminar there with the American Industrial Society there probably about 20 years ago, when the roof was still on the building, and members of PAL and Mass Historical were there at the time. And we spent a lot of time inside documenting the roof structure, and they did some drawings. I have those drawings, so that roof structure could be reproduced very easily.
I'm glad you mentioned the museum, because I do think that the historical researchers may or may not have thought of that in terms of their historical research. Hey, look at, there's a Washburn. I'm a Washburn. And you see right there in the middle that says dam 1697. There's a 1700s document that suggests that the bridge was built by 1727.
Well, the ironworks were operating, I think, in 1713, because if you go through the probate court records, you'll find that I believe it's David Perkins talks about one of his heirs, a son who was blinded in an explosion of a mold at the dam. 1713. So I think they went to the legislature in 1695, but no, I'm not going to get into it.
Well, that's the David. You'll need to be the historian helping the historians do the work.
Steve, I have deeds going back to 1690 for David Perkins.
Yeah. So, I mean, it just proves how important it is to make sure that history is preserved.
And there's also a bridge that was down up in the West Bridgewater area called Comfort Willis's Bridge. And it spanned the river, and it probably was in place in early 1700s, at least certainly by the 1720. And the remnants of that are still in the river. And once the river starts to flow faster, that structure may erode. So there's tons of history here that we need to look at. I'm especially interested in the indigenous population's history.
Absolutely. I just had to mention one thing. I think she may have just jumped off, but Sherry Anderson, our other committee member, was on, but she wasn't able to communicate, and she agreed with the memorial building comments. So we had full 5 approval on that. So I just wanted to let everyone know that she was on for that conversation. No, I think that what I'll do is each historical commission meeting, I'll keep bringing an update to the commission so that everyone's aware of what's going on. All right. After this, I think we discussed this a little bit more. The CPC public forum. We just it was scheduled for the 24th of this month. It's now been pushed back to the to March. Unfortunately, we could due to scheduling or announcement issues, it's got moved back to March 24th. This will be like a public forum where historic preservation is absolutely essential part of the CPA or CPC. So I think what we can do is now I'll just kind of announce that that's going to be coming up, but I'd also possibly by next meeting, which will be before that meeting, we can discuss what we may want to present if people have questions about historical preservation for the meeting. I don't know if anyone has any comments about that. Gina, if you want to had any ideas.
I do, Steve. Thank you for mentioning that. I apologize that we had to postpone it a month. If you could come, you put on your thinking caps and come up with ideas. What we're looking for is input from the public and different committees and commissions on how to utilize CPC funds. In this case, historic preservation. If you have thoughts on housing or open space or recreation, feel free to bring those along too. So as many of you that could attend, it would be great. The CPC is having their regular meeting next Wednesday, the 24th. I know it's in conflict with our ZBA also. So I hope you can jump on for a little bit. And I'd like to add for the stone building at Stanley Ironworks, CPC, some of you know the CPC had awarded, sleazy years ago, a grant to shore that up. The company started, never came back. CPC ended up recalling the money back from the town. So if anybody has any suggestions or contractors that could shore it up, I agree. It definitely needs to be done.
Just very quickly, also, I would say anybody that hasn't read the community preservation 5-year plan that was just approved last spring, read the historical, for this group, read the historical section, see what is going on. And I would ask Michael or Kim if whether or not we can actually get a hold of some of the actions that the town's working on for the master plan for that meeting. It really would help the public to understand what the master plan is trying to go, where it's trying to go to in terms of actions. I think it's, quite frankly, I think it's past time that the town sees some of this.
Yeah, I think that that should mesh well with the release timing. So I think that's definitely possible.
We can set up a schedule. We can actually, you know, if you or CED chair, listen to me, director wants to present some things or have their consultant, if you have the funds for that, I think it would be really helpful for about a 10-minute primer on that document from our 3 areas of interest.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that would be good.
Great. Actually, Michael, while I have you on the in the meeting, it's not on the agenda, but I wanted to ask you a question about the if there's been any updates on the town hall feasibility study.
I actually, that's a good question, Steve. I got that I think yesterday, so I haven't even had a chance to open it, but I plan probably tonight I'll open it up and circulate it to everybody.
Great.
So you can see that. So, yep, finally,
Excellent. Good to see that going again.
yeah.
All right, so maybe for next meeting, we'll have I can have an update for the commission about the progress on that. I'm looking forward to seeing that. And I think last thing on the discussions, this about the historical commission storage. I guess right now the historical commission has storage in the on Perkins Street in the warehouse. I guess there was a Angelo D'Amelia, who owns the building, had an agreement with the historical commission. There's been some word of that building being having a new owner, and that we're going to need it. So, David, could you speak to that a little bit more? What steps we need to make? David, I don't know if you heard my question. If do you know who any more information on the story and what will need to be done to
Is somebody talking on this topic, Steve?
what's that?
Is somebody talking about answering your question?
No, I was asking you if
I thought you said Steve. Okay. Yeah, Angelo called me about 2 weeks ago saying that he's got a buyer for the building, and that we either have to empty our contents out probably 60 to 90 days after the deal goes through, or we sit down and negotiate with the new owners. I would like to do that first, but I would actively at this point come up with a backup plan. If
Right.
we have to, if we got to get rid of that, get that stuff out of there, we need a place to put it. So it's something we've got to be thinking of.
Okay.
Angelo didn't give me any time frame as far as passing or when the deal's going to close. So we ought to get going on.
Yep. Is that something that you'd be able to communicate with Angelo to see like if he can give you the new owner's contact information?
Yeah, I can get that.
Okay. 'Cause, yeah, we'll have to, if not, like we're gonna have to find a new location for that space, and obviously with Memorial Building not having as much display space and storage, we're gonna have to might have to be creative as to where we can relocate it if we have to relocate it.
Let's get that roof on that storage building right now. Is there room in the highway barn for some of that stuff?
No.
Highway,
No, the highway barn, I've tried to store things down there in the past and they just don't have any secure places. And the old highway barn, I wouldn't want to step foot in. It's scheduled for demolition. I think worst comes to worst, we gotta look at the basement of the town hall. Town hall, not the academy building.
yeah. Yeah, it's been cleaned out fairly well.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll keep that discussion going. And I guess right now, if there's anyone from the public or anyone who has any other comments that weren't discussed, any new items that they want to discuss, I'll open that up. I guess not. So I guess it's a little bit longer meeting than usual, but I think it was a very good meeting. I appreciate everyone being here. I think that we'll go back to our third Tuesday of next third Tuesday of the month for next month's meeting.
I'm almost done, but it's cold anyway.
Other than that, just do a motion to adjourn. If someone wants to second that motion.
I'll second.
Matt seconds. All right. we're adjourned. Thanks everyone for this. This is great, and I will talk to you all soon.
Thank you.
Hey, good night. Stay safe.
Bye.
Yep.
Really?